If you run a service-based business and you are not booking at least 3 quality sales calls every single week on LinkedIn, you're probably doing something wrong. I have sent thousands of outreach messages over the last 12 months, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I've signed over £50,000 in new revenue through the LinkedIn DMs alone, and now I'm teaching my clients the exact same strategies that I've deployed in my business to book consistent sales calls and to sign consistent clients. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 8 most common mistakes I see business owners making that stop them from booking consistent sales calls, consistent quality sales calls in the LinkedIn DMs. The first mistake is what I like to call me, and this is essentially making the interaction about you. So the 2 most obvious ways that this presents itself is number 1, the pitch slap. This is a super obvious and a super annoying way of making the interaction about you. It's essentially where you come into the conversation with zero context into the lead, who they are, whether they need your product or service or not, and you immediately pitch your product or service to them. This is a terrible opener to outreach and typically is going to get you ignored. The second most obvious way that this shows up, making the conversation all about you, is what I like to call the war and peace opener. And that is a super long message basically detailing your business, your newsletter, what you've been up to, your latest events, essentially a massive long message that nobody asked for and nobody is going to read. These 2 outreach messages fundamentally ignore one of the crucial parts about outreach, and that is making the interaction about your lead. You want to be serving them, not selling to them. Another way that making the conversation all about you can subtly creep into the outreach is trying to name drop certain results you've gotten for other clients, trying to sort of name drop your service in a subtle way. It's super obvious and people can see through it. Ultimately, your prospects don't care about this result, that result, until they realize that this is something that they actually want. This is something they want to explore. And the best way to help them figure out if they want to explore that is by asking them questions and making the interaction about them, not about you. The time to share your achievements and share your accolades with other prospects just like them will come, but outreach is not about showing off or pitching or showing your best case studies. It's about diagnosing the prospect. Are they in a position that you can help them with, right? Because otherwise, these kinds of messages are going to fall on deaf ears. So mistake number 1 is making the conversation all about you. Step number 2 is what I like to call water cooler chat. And this is where you get stuck in the rapport/relationship building portion of outreach for too long, right? You start just kind of chatting. And whilst rapport and relationship building is important, you don't want to stay in this stage for too long, right? You want to start to bridge the conversation, transition the conversation towards your DM framework where you can ask strategic questions to identify pain points or goals that the prospect has. As much as it's important to build relationships with prospects, because it absolutely is, it's also important to qualify them and get them onto the actual call, because by getting somebody onto a call, you're then creating an opportunity to deepen and develop that relationship with them. But if you get stuck in the rapport and relationship building stage in the DMs for too long, you're not allowing that to happen. If you're not in an immediate need for a new client, staying in the relationship and rapport building stage for a longer period of time can be quite helpful. But if you're looking to start booking consistent sales calls, I would say to wrap up that stage of the conversation within the first 4 to 5 messages, ideally less, and start getting the ball rolling with a trusted DM framework. Okay, mistake number 3 is what I like to call all eggs in one basket. This one happens a lot, right? So let's say that you've had a promising conversation with a prospect and you're really confident that they're going to click on your calendar link and they're going to book in to have a call with you, right? Or maybe you've had a really good sales call with a prospect and you're like super confident that they're going to close, right? So you think, great, I've got this new job coming in. I'm going to take my foot off the pedal, right? Usually when this happens, most people stop outreaching. They put all their faith in that one lead closing and trick themselves into this sort of false sense of security. And let me tell you, this is just about the worst thing you can do. Most people are busy. They forget. They go cold. They might buy with somebody else. They might just not be interested anymore. There's 1,000,001 reasons why somebody might not book the call or might not close. And a lot of them are outside of your control, right? Like sometimes there's just nothing you can do. And so with that in mind, outreach should be a consistent daily practice that you do all the time, no matter what stage you're at in your business. Like I said in the previous step, the urgency in which you need a new client will just alter maybe how many new conversations you start, or how quickly you move someone through the framework, or how long you stay in the rapport relationship building stage. But regardless, you're still doing it. If you're feeling comfortable with your current client load, you should still be carving out consistent daily time in your calendar to build and nurture relationships with prospects. Because, let me tell you this from experience, the worst time to do outreach is when you desperately need to, which brings me on quite nicely to the next mistake. Mistake 4 is square peg, round hole. I made this mistake quite a lot, especially at the start when I was feeling a little desperate. I'd quit my full-time job. I was thinking, okay, I really need to get some clients in. And that sense of desperation and that sense of urgency can be sensed by your prospects, right? We are human beings. We have that sixth sense. We can kind of perceive an agenda or intentions. And this comes across even in the DMs, I believe. When you're in that desperate frame of mind, you start trying to make people fit into an offer that they don't need just for the sake of booking a call, or trying to convince people or sell to them rather than helping them and positioning yourself as the obvious choice, right? There's a really lovely saying that I like, which is, don't sell, have people buy, right? And this is fundamental, right? You're not trying to convince people to buy from you. It should become an obvious choice, right? If you are the right person for them. At the end of the day, having an unqualified sales call is about as useful as not having a call at all, right? And of course, qualifying your sales calls has deeper roots than outreach. It starts with the architecture of your offer, how you position your profile, and the sales navigator list that you use to outreach to. But you book qualified sales calls by asking questions in order to qualify them during outreach. When feeling desperate or panicky about money, people might skip the question step or start trying to make an offer fit for someone that it just doesn't fit for. And this is something that I've been guilty of in the past. And this does the exact opposite of what you hope it will, right? It drives people away. So another way you can avoid trying to fit a square peg in a round hole is prioritizing your profile viewers, your content engagers, your new followers, prospects that have actually demonstrated a buying signal as far as LinkedIn goes, right? So once you start conversations with those people, then you can use a DM framework to start asking qualifying questions to do the rest of the heavy lift. Mistake number 5, and this will be maybe an unpopular opinion, is automation. Automation might be an effective channel for outreach in the future, okay? It might be, but right now it is shite, and I will die on this hill. I feel like I say I die on this hill in every video. There are many hills you will find me dead on, apparently. Automation might be good for a quick win here and there, but fundamentally I believe it tanks reputation and it tanks relationships. Especially when you use it on LinkedIn, right? Because in cold email, I can understand it to an extent, but on LinkedIn, this is your face, your personal brand, like it's all attached to those initial messages. And if they feel cold, dry, and non-personalized, then how can somebody build an affinity with you? Especially as a service-based business owner, right? Like typically you are the product. For service-based business owners, particularly coaches and consultants, the first touch point with a potential customer, in my opinion, is sacred. A lot of trust goes into these sales because, despite the fact that it might technically be a B2B sale, most prospects treat these offers as if they were a consumer. It can be a very personal engagement. A lot of people moan because sending manual outreach is more time consuming, right? But let me ask you this. Do your potential customers not deserve that level of effort? Mistake number 6 is pay me first, get value second. Now that LinkedIn is getting increasingly crowded, there's more and more people outreaching, I believe that it's very important to use every opportunity you can to differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd, right? And an amazingly effective way to do this is to front load your engagements with as much value as you can before asking for a penny. When you have hundreds of competitors in the same space going after the same prospects as you, It's important to build as much trust and goodwill as you can to set yourself apart. What would your competition hide behind a paywall that you can give willingly? How can you demonstrate that you're here to serve, not to sell? Or how can you kick off the relationship in a collaborative, helpful way, rather than robotic and transactional? Most of us want good long-term relationships with clients, right? So why should that start after they've paid you? Put your best foot forward. You set the tone, right? And by front-loading the interaction with as much value as possible, you're positioning the working relationship as an obvious choice. You're separating yourself from the pack and putting your service top of mind. I guarantee you that a potential client will feel more valued and cared about if you've added some value in an unscalable way, rather than feeling like a number on your fucking Dripify campaign. And yes, this might take some more time, this might take some more effort, but you're cultivating an incredibly strong relationship straight out the gate before asking somebody for money, right? And that is the kind of shit that gets you remembered. The nuance here is to add the value once you're almost at the end of the DM framework, right before you're about to invite them onto a call. This makes the value land even harder, and it makes the call easier to kind of set up because you can also frame it as an offer to go through what you've shared on the call. And I know there might be some people thinking, well, what if they just take what I've offered and run, right? I would say, remember, premium clients won't just take your idea and run off into the sunset. The high ticket premium clients, they just won't do that. They want someone to implement it for them, right? No matter what service you're in, whether you're consulting, coaching, or you're doing a done for you service, high ticket premium clients, they will take the value and they will say, okay, great, now I need someone to do this for me, right? And that's you, because you gave them the value. If you're really worried that someone's going to run off with your ideas, drop enough value so that they get it, they understand the concept, but not enough so that they could implement it without you, right? If you're worried, try striking a balance between those two things. Okay, cool. So mistake number 7 of 8 is never following up. Oh my God. If you don't follow up with your prospects, you are leaving a quantum shit ton of money on the table. And the scary part is this is maybe one of the this probably is the most common mistake that I see is people just don't follow up. Here's my rule. Every person you outreach to, whether they reply or not, gets a follow-up. Every person who gets into a flow of conversation with you gets 2 follow-ups. Every person who makes it to the end of the DM framework, maybe they got a Calendly link, they get 3 follow-ups. And on the 3rd follow-up, I'm sending them a stupid fucking meme. I'm sending them a gif of Mr. Bean waiting in the meadow because life's too short, we're on a spinning rock, let's have some fun with it. You may feel like you're being annoying or pushy. Reality is, 9 times out of 10, this person doesn't hate you, they've forgotten, right? Or they've been bombarded with 10 more DM conversations and yours has got buried a little bit, right? I can't even tell you the amount of times that I've followed up with someone and they've thanked me because they forgot, right? And this is especially true if your ICP is a founder or a C-suite or other super busy professionals, right? Because they don't live on LinkedIn, right? They're running companies and managing teams and changing the world or whatever it is that they're doing, right? They need to be followed up with. I even set up an automation on my homemade CRM on Google Sheets that every person who ghosts after a few back and forth, or everybody that I'm unable to close on a sales call, after 60 days, my CRM reminds me to re-engage them, right? It reminds me to strike up a conversation again. Because those people that I've already built a foundation of trust with, I've already had some back and forth with, maybe I've already spoken with them on a call, they're always going to be an easier close eventually. If it wasn't good for them back then, maybe it will be in a little while. I've already done the legwork to build that trust with them because everybody knows that somebody who already knows you, knows what you're about, knows who you are, they're going to be easier to close than a fresh new lead straight out the oven, right? That doesn't know who you are yet. So losing these people, losing these follow-ups is costing you a lot of money. When you have a certain calendar slot for outreach, which if you don't have, you need to do, pick one slot that recurs every single day, Monday through Friday, the same time, whether it's 30, 45 or 60 minutes, do outreach, start X amount of conversations, follow up with leads, who are 3 days or more not responding to you. Like, you need to add follow-ups to your outreach slot. You have to. You're leaving so much money on the table if you're not following up with leads. Mistake number 8, the final mistake, is starting less than 10 conversations per week. If you're in recruitment mode for a new client and you think that starting 10 conversations per week is enough, it isn't. It just isn't enough. It's not enough to book consistent sales calls, but it's also not enough to generate robust data that you can analyze and improve your process so that in the future, you might be able to just start 10 conversations per week, right? Like, you need to put the reps in to understand what works for your offer and your ICP, because, people like me, we can give you a framework, but at the end of the day, the specific thing that works for your offer or your ICP is going to vary, right? And the only way you're going to find that out is through repetition. Let's say you wanted 4 new clients in the next 60 days and you had a 20% closing rate on sales calls, which, to be fair, is pretty low, but let's just go with like a worst case scenario, right? You'd need to book 20 sales calls to get those clients. So 10 calls per month across 60 days, right? Let's say you were able to book 20% of your prospects onto sales calls from the DMs. That means you'd need to have 100 active conversations to book those calls, so 50 a month. And if you have a 40% response rate, that means you need to send 125 DMs per month to achieve that. An average month has around 4 weeks, so that means you need to be sending at least 30 DMs a week, right? Like, when you work backwards, it's clear to see that the outputs are the most important part, right? It sounds like a lot, but like I said before, once you get the reps in, once you start figuring out what works for your offer and your ICP, you can work on improving this system for your offer in particular and start optimizing how quickly can I get people booked onto sales calls, how many new people can I convert into clients, right? And then you can start reducing the amount of outputs you need to put in on a weekly basis, right, as you start to scale the business. Those were my 8 most common mistakes I see people making in the DMs. If you related to any of those 8, I highly recommend that you unlearn it, you change it, you turn it into something else, because these 8 things I've seen them cost a lot of people from consistent sales calls and predictable revenue in their business. So if you have any questions, as always, connect with me on LinkedIn, book a discovery call if you want to talk about this in the context of your business. Either way, I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!